Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Chiefs Out West. I'm your host, Butch Davis. Key couldn't be with us today, but we're going to go through Week 1 pick'em. We'll be choosing the rest of the games on the Week 1 slate in the NFL. Going to be a little harder to call without a preseason, without a whole lot of conversation about what happened in individual training camps, but we do have some very critical matchups that are going to set the stage for the rest of the season. I'm excited. Let's get them checked out. Okay, we are going to start off with the New York Jets at the Buffalo Bills. I have the Buffalo Bills winning this game 26-18, and I'll tell you why. New York Jets and Buffalo, both teams played each other very tight last year. A very close scoring game, low scoring games, close games. This year, I think the superiority of the Bills roster will show. The New York Jets are a bad secondary and a team with limited receiving options, which means I don't expect their pass game to be good, and I don't expect their ability to stop the pass game to be very good. The Bills, it may take them a little bit of time to get that chemistry right between Allen and their new star, Stephon Diggs, but ultimately just the talent on that roster is going to win out for them 26-18. It could be even worse to that because the Jets, just not enough talent yet. Next up, Cleveland goes to Baltimore week 1. Remember last year, Cleveland ran all over them. That's the reason why Baltimore went out and got themselves guys like Calais Campbell and Derek Wolfe and Patrick Queen so that they can better fill those holes in the run game. And I think they're going to be able to do so. I think they're going to be able to stymie a lot of what Cleveland wants to do. Cleveland is going to be bringing in a coaching staff that's somewhat predictable in what they're going to try to do as well. A lot of boots, a lot of, drop back runs, outside zone. They have an offensive line that's going to need to mesh. So I think Cleveland can do some things well, especially because it's an in-division game, and sometimes those can be sort of hit or miss. They can be unpredictable at times. But ultimately, Cleveland just not enough talent for this Baltimore team. They're banged up in the secondary. Grant Delpit's out. Kevin Johnson's out. Greedy Williams is out in this one, and Baltimore's going to have their way with them on offense. They're going to win 33-23. All right, next up, Seattle Seahawks tip off against the Atlanta Falcons. Look, this is going to be interesting, right? Because both of these teams, I think, are fairly even matched. Similar sort of defensive styles going on, same sort of defensive coaching trees there, so they know how to attack one another. I think that Seattle does open up their passing game a little bit more because they don't want to get into a game where they're stagnant and just running the ball. Ultimately, though, I think Atlanta builds off of their momentum at the end of last year. Remember, in the last year, they beat good teams like New Orleans and San Francisco on the road, no less, because they made some changes in their coaching on the defensive side. So I think they keep that going. I think the offense gets itself back to looking like a juggernaut again. Calvin Ridley, yeah, remember that name. This guy might be the one. Forget Michael Thomas. This kid might be the one to lead the NFC South in receptions and yards. I know it's a big proclamation, but he's that good. Ultimately, yeah, I think Atlanta does this thing, man. They're healthy. I don't trust Seattle's secondary completely, even though they have Jamal Adams. I think Atlanta is going to be able to basically shock Seattle week 1 and sneak out a win 30-24. All right, next game. Chicago goes to Detroit. Look, this is it, right? Everybody's under pressure in Chicago, and this is Mitchell Trubisky's last opportunity to show that he can be a starter for this team. I think that Trubisky will be able to do it. He's traditionally has had good games against Detroit. He's been able to pass well and avoid turnovers. Detroit, I'm just not a believer yet. I think their pass rush is maybe a little bit better. I think they have the secondary that's going to be a little bit better as well. But ultimately, they had a long way to go from where they were last year to be improved enough to beat teams that are a little more established like Chicago. We like to bag on Chicago like some bad team. They just underperformed. They were a playoff team the year before. They were a 500 team the year before and a playoff team the year before that. So they have talent in the right places to be able to stymie Detroit. I think they'll be able to do that. I think their defense is going to come back healthy, even though Matthew Stafford did look like a demigod basically before he got hurt. I see Chicago winning this one 27-23, and that Detroit secondary just won't be able to keep up. Next game, Las Vegas at Carolina. Look, Vegas needs to win this game. Because they go 0-1 against Carolina, I mean, it's going to be hell to pay, all right? Because this team should be at a point where they're willing to contest and able to contest the Chiefs for the AFC West crown. I'll say this much. Las Vegas, this is kind of hard to call, right? Because Carolina, they're bringing in a brand new coaching staff with Matt Rule. I like Taylor Moton. I think they should be paying him. He's one of their better tackles, and I think he should be there for the long term. Carolina obviously has the passing weapons to make this thing work with Teddy Bridgewater, Curtis Samuel. They have Christian McCaffrey. They have DJ Moore. I think the offense will be able to get humming if they can find some rhythm at one point. Just Bridgewater's got to find him. He's got to be the one to air it out long. He's got to trust in his protection. He's got to get it off. Ultimately, I think Las Vegas wins this one. They have a defensive line that is stout. I don't think they're going to be giving up the type of running plays that Carolina is going to use to pace their offense. I think their linebacker play is going to get a little bit better, has gotten a little bit better. And I think ultimately their offense, they have big physical guys, and they're going to test Carolina's depth, especially at the linebacker at the second level. And Carolina's not going to be able to respond. They're going to lose this game 26-21 at home. All right, next up. Philadelphia goes to Washington, the Washington football team against Philadelphia. Look, I have no faith in Washington's ability to pass the football. Also don't have very much faith in Philly's secondary. So those are two things that I look at and I say to myself, one thing, something's got to give here. What is it going to be? Ultimately, it's going to be on the offensive and defensive lines of scrimmage. Washington will be able to stymie what Philadelphia wants to do in their passing game. They will be able to get after Carson Wentz. They will make life difficult for him with their rotation of strong defensive linemen and their ability to go man coverage on the back end. I think they can. I think the masterminds that they have on the defensive side with Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio, they'll be able to cook up enough plans to take away what Carson Wentz wants to do best and the route concepts that they want to try to develop down the field. They're going to make them more of a short passing and running team. With Miles Sanders, I don't think it's going to work. Ultimately, though, Washington just doesn't have enough offense. Philly has just enough offense to sneak out an ugly-looking game, a sloppy-looking game, 19-12 over Washington. All right, next up, the Miami Dolphins will travel to the New England Patriots. Last time Miami went here, they ended up getting a shocking victory, helping propel the Kansas City Chiefs into a bye week. You better believe New England wants revenge in this one. I don't think they get it, guys. This is upset central. I'm not even sure if it's an upset yet. Like, look, what has New England done to get better other than bringing Cam Newton, who's going to need some time to get acclimated, in my opinion, to that offense? I think Cam will go into this game realizing that he needs to throw the ball more to preserve his health for the length of the season. So I don't think we're going to see him running the ball like you saw when he was in Carolina, running these power O's and sweeps to the outside all in designed runs all the time. No, they're going to try to get him to pass the ball. And I think that plays in what Miami wants to do. They're going to be stout and play games along the defensive line. I think on the outside, you're not going to beat them. No, you're not going to beat them. They have Byron Jones, Noah Igbenogany. I'm not sure if he's starting early or playing in the slot, but again, wish I would have had a training camp so I could hear more about him. But I mean, their corners are going to be able to really lock. I think they're going to be a dark horse, one of the better defenses in the league, and force New England to do things on defense to stop Miami. I think that's not going to work either. Devontae Parker, he's coming back. Mike Gesicki, Patrick Laird, they still have Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick knows what he's doing. He's a veteran. And I think the team around him, they're going to be better because they're going to pace their offense with the run and turn and run into the pass like they did when they were in New England at the end of the season. So I have Miami winning this one again. 24-20. New England starts the season 0-1. Woof. Okay, next game. Green Bay goes to Minnesota. This is a tough one to call, y'all. Green Bay did nothing. Like, what did they do? They drafted a quarterback that doesn't help them in year one. I hear A.J. Dillon's not really getting any snaps at running back. So they're the same team. That's ridiculous. Minnesota likes to – that means that they're the same team. Minnesota saw what happened in the divisional round the year before. They know how they played in the past couple games during the regular season. They're saying we're going to give you a steady dose of Dalvin Cook. We're going to turn around, hand it off to him outside zone, and dare you without, the linebacker play that you've had in the past and see if that's gotten better. Did you fix that part of your team, at least the inside linebacker portion of it? Did you get bigger men along your defensive line to be able to stop the run? The answer to that is no. So Minnesota will be able to get into the end zone fairly often, Green Bay is going to have to do some things. Hey, Aaron, the game plan isn't working out too well. You think you can bail us out? All right, guys, give me a second. Let me strap up. And he's going to do his thing as well, but ultimately, he's not going to be able to pass the ball into deep windows down the field against Anthony Harris and Harrison Smith. So, no, I have Minnesota winning this one 33-27, and Green Bay is going to have some more questions than they have answers going into the following week. Next game, Indy goes to Jacksonville. Jacksonville is going to get smoked. Sorry. This is a defense that is young. This is a team that is very young. No veteran depth, very little veteran depth. And I just don't see how they're going to hold up against an Indy team that is deep. They have maulers along their offensive line. They are a smart veteran team. They're well coached. They have a quarterback who can step in. He doesn't need a whole lot of reps. He can make things happen, even at his older age. To be able to move the chains on Jacksonville. Now, the offense for Jacksonville is going to be okay. Jay Gruden's going to make some things happen for Gardner Minshew, and that offense is going to be pretty decent with DJ Chark and Chris Conley. They have Dede Westbrook. They have guys who can move on offense and move with speed. So they'll put up some points, but they'll get blown out 44-24. Oof. All right, next game. The Los Angeles Chargers travel to Cincinnati. The Cincinnati Bengals, this is going to be a dark horse, good kind of game, man. I think this is going to be an all right game. Cincy can end up being a Cinderella story is what I wrote down in my notes. I actually kind of like their roster. I think people forget that Cincy was actually, they were a decent team some years back. They haven't always been this bad team. They were just bad last year. Ultimately, though, I think Cincy's head coach and their OC, they know how to attack this kind of defense. You remember, last year when Cincy went to Seattle, they knew what they were doing. They almost got a win out in Seattle, and they put up big points on them. I think that'll happen again to the Los Angeles Chargers, where Cincy actually is able to get some things going. May not be big points, but they'll find some success against this pass defense. Ultimately, though, the Chargers are just a little too talented. I think their run game will be established more. I think their pass game with their passing targets will do just enough to keep Cincy off balance. And I don't like Cincinnati's linebacker play thus far. I think they're a step too slow. I think they're a little bit too young. And I think Los Angeles Chargers will be able to eke out a win 23-21 in Cincinnati. Next game, this is going to be a juicy one in the afternoon. Tampa Bay goes to New Orleans. The first matchup between Tom Brady and Drew Brees. And, man, this is going to be a barn burner. Tampa Bay, a lot of people have Tampa Bay going to the Super Bowl. I can understand why. Here's what I see. Both teams can win the line of scrimmage. Both teams have big men. They believe in big men on their offensive and defensive lines. Both teams can stop the run. Both teams can rush the passer with relative fluidity. So that is going to be an interesting development. Cam Jordan over across from Tristan Wirfs, that is not going to be good. I would be trying to expose that matchup as much as possible. Force Tom to get that blocked up first. Take another player out of the route development down the field and force Tom to just go to a few targets like Brock, force him to go to Chris Godwin, which may be good enough with the status and availability of Mike Evans up in the air. I also think that Tampa Bay's secondary, if they want to win this game, they'll have to make a play because New Orleans knows exactly what they're doing. They know what they're facing against this Tampa Bay defense. It hasn't changed that much. So it's going to be Tampa Bay having to prove that they are on the levels of New Orleans and their playmakers and their playmakers and their play callers to be able to get a stop or get the ball back to their offense, in my opinion, to be able to make that happen. And I don't think they will. I think this is a shootout. New Orleans will win this game 38-33. Tampa Bay goes 0-1 to start the season. Next game, Arizona at San Francisco. Okay. So this one's going to be interesting. Another divisional round. I love these week one divisional round matchups because we get to see what the division is going to be at a fairly early pace. These games are always pretty interesting. I have San Francisco winning this one, and not by much. Arizona may be the most improved team in the NFC. I like everything that they did in the draft. Isaiah Simmons, he's going to be the one that straps tight ends. He's going to be the chess piece along that middle for an Arizona defense. I was just terrible at defending that position last year. I asked myself, can Kyler Murray make that jump, that year one to year two jump, and come out and really take control of this offense? Because if he can start to stress out what San Francisco's rules are. I think Coach Kingsbury starting to understand, hey, if I use the run game like this, I get Kyler under center. We start working every blade of grass on the offense instead of just dropping back in shotgun and allowing San Francisco to, tee off on my quarterback. We could start taking control and take pace of this game. And I think for a second they will. Ultimately, though, San Francisco has a little bit too much on offense. They'll still get explosive plays against their defense. They'll still be able to get to the quarterback. Those are the ways you're going to beat a team like Arizona, and they win 31-27. All right, Dallas travels to the Los Angeles Rams. Playoff matchup. Be waiting for this one. Both of these teams will be in the playoffs. The Rams will have a bounce back offense early in this season. I think their offensive run game will be multiple. I think they'll get back to what they do best, which is play action. And I think they'll be a little better at doing that because they'll have more players in the pass game that can replace and be different types of chess pieces in multiple positions. A guy like Van Jefferson, who I think will make an impact early in his career. Dallas, they're going to come out throwing it. They're going to come out. They're not going to be afraid. They're going to run the ball, then drop back and let Dak air it out. And Dak is going to be fearless in showing that he can lead this team and lead this offense down the field against a moderately good man coverage defense. He has enough weapons to beat man now. It's a tough call, but I think the Rams, they win this one. They eke this one out 29-27. All right, the Pittsburgh Steelers take on the New York Giants. Look, Pittsburgh will not allow Saquon to beat them. No way in hell. They have a defensive line that is stout. Cam Hayward just got his money. The offensive interior line for the New York Giants, I think their O-line is going to get a little better this year. But ultimately, what Jason Garrett's offense wants to do, they want to control the ball. They want rhythm. They want to do things that are sort of not very flashy, but very fundamental. And Pittsburgh's going to have them locked up. They're too deep. They're too talented. They're too big. They have too many guys that can make plays on the ball. And if Daniel Jones was to come out with the intent to really start to test them to back their defense up so they can lighten up the box for Saquon, they're going to get beat down. They're probably going to get beat down pretty bad, especially if Ben is healthy in this game, which I think he is. I think Pittsburgh, they end up winning this one 31-20. All right. And the last Monday, so that Pittsburgh Giants game was a Monday nighter. And then we have another Monday nighter. This will be the Tennessee Titans at the Denver Broncos. Denver with some unfortunate injuries to start off the season. Cortland Sutton, I hope, is doing okay. I didn't really hear much about his status, but he has until Monday to get it figured out. Hopefully he plays. Of course, Von Miller's out, so they'll be relying on Bradley Chubb, who was out most of last year with a knee injury. So his availability, amount of snaps he gets is going to be up in the air. So they'll be relying on their backups, guys like Malik Reed, Shelby Harris to be able to get to the quarterback. And I think they have an opportunity in this one. Fangio, again, believes in big men. He has the linebackers, the inside linebacker play that I think he likes to be able to neutralize Tennessee's run. He's not going to let Derrick Henry start racking up 20, 30 carries and get himself 200 yards on that defense. No way. They're going to force run. Their goal is, hey, let's force this Ryan Tannehill guy to prove that he can get to the second and third levels of our defense. If he can, we'll shake their hands, but they're not going to run the ball on us consistently. Drew Lock has to put up points. He's going to have to, because that defense may end up being, when he gets to passing downs, Ryan Tannehill can do enough to get big chunk plays in the passing game, and Locke's going to have to respond to that. Will he? I'm not quite sure. I think he'll try. Ultimately, I think Tennessee is just too much. They're too mature. They're a team that is too multiple. Their pass rush is going to be revitalized with Clowney and an extra year of Harold Landry on the outside, even though they won't have Vic Beasley. But they'll be good enough to beat Denver in Denver 30-26. Okay, well, there you have it. That was week one pick'em. Let me know in the comments whether or not you agree. We'll be up early out here on the West Coast, 10 o'clock to watch the first kickoff. Welcome to football season, everybody.